Greenville County Sheriff's Office says they've identified the victim from a cold case in 1975.
We need to warn some of our viewers, you may find the images in this story disturbing. Arlise Devlin has more on the story.
For years, the sheriff's office has referred to this victim as Mr. X. Today, they announced it's Oscar James Ned. He's a man from White Plains, New York, and they believe he was killed in New York and his body was brought to South Carolina. In January 1975, deputies say a hunter found a body wrapped in a sheet on a property near Highway 20. Investigators say the body was smoldering, leading them to believe the victim was set on fire. They say there were also signs of blunt force trauma and strangulation. Then, in 1976, authorities arrested Jackie Anderson, charging him with murder. But the case was dismissed due to lack of evidence. Investigators now say they know Anderson was not involved at all. So the case became cold. But in 2020, Sheriff Hobart Lewis decided to re-examine it.
I became interested in the Mr. X case after listening to a local podcast by Brad Willis called Murder, Etc.
The podcast brings attention to unsolved homicides.
There are family members of victims who are still looking for answers. There are people who were accused of crimes that they didn't commit, still looking to be exonerated for them.
After exhuming the body in 2020 and spending years collecting evidence, in February, the sheriff says he received a call from the White Plains Police Department in New York. They compared notes and case files, and both the sheriff's office and that police department from New York were able to identify Mr. X as Oscar James Ned.
We've identified Mr. Ned, and we're not stopping there. We look forward to making charges for anybody that was involved in this case.
The sheriff says Ned was born in 1951 and grew up in Georgia before moving to New York to pursue a college education with hopes of becoming a journalist. Willis says behind every cold case is a family who wants answers.
There are still people in this community who are grieving and trying to figure out what happened back then. And some are grown too tired to ask questions or to force it. And so if there's a young community here who actually cares about things that happened in the past, they could actually help solve those cases and better their community today.
This is now an active death investigation being conducted by officials in New York. In Greenville, Arlise Devlin, 7 News.
The Greenville County Sheriff's Office says revamping their cold case unit nearly 4 years ago, they solved 11 homicides.